Hey there, folks, and welcome to another episode of Crit Hit Interviews. I'm Arlyeon, and we're here today with Kevin Anderson
Hello.
and Michael Forsland of Elden Pixel,
Hello.
namely the developers of Alwa's Awakening. So, we tend to start off these interviews with sort of questions about you, the developers in general. So, first off, let's start with the fun one. What's a recent or favorite game you guys have played?
Should I go first?
Yeah, sure.
Last weekend I started and finished Uncharted 4, which been on my backlog forever. So that's like the recent game that I finished, and it was good.
Last time I played was second. How was the fourth?
Well, it was good. It was very well. I tried to play the other ones, but I felt like there was such a wave system. There were more arcade type of games. Like when I entered an area, there came these waves of enemies, and I didn't like that. And it felt more smooth in the fourth one, so I really enjoyed that.
Did you kill a lot of people in it?
I tried to sneak as much as I could because that's what I like to do. But like some parts you can't avoid. You gotta kill people. That sounds terrible, but in the game, like
You gotta kill people. Okay.
no, but that not a fan of shooting games, but Naughty Dog games are good when it comes to story and stuff like that. So I tend to play those. By the way,
Yeah, the last game I played was Mummy Demastered, the Metroidvania game from. It's from I can't remember the developer name. But they came out on Switch this year, or maybe it was late last year. I'm not sure, but it's a Metroidvania game. Brilliant pixel art, cool music, and decent game. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Didn't take that long to play. Only 5 hours, I think, before I finished it, and I almost got all the items and stuff like that as well. So, but I thought it was pretty cool.
It's on my wish list as things that I want to dive into.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember who it is that does it. Is it Way Forward or is it...
Yeah, it's Way Forward. Yeah.
Aha!
It is.
Okay.
Absolutely brilliant pixel art. It was really cool environments and good sprite work as well. So that was cool.
I need to check that out.
Yeah, you should bring it.
Alright, so starting into the actual questions. First off, what got you two into game development, and was it something you always wanted to do?
When I was like 15 and you were gonna pick like a gymnasium, I scrolled through some like books and I found game development. So I was like, I want to go there. So that's where it started for me, and I just fell in love with it. Like before that, I used to make like custom levels in Halo 3 and stuff like that, and play a bunch of different games with level editors. That's where it started. So yeah.
Yeah, for me, well, I worked in retail all my life, so I actually only worked in the gaming industry it's coming up on 5 years now. So it's been a few years, but I'm almost 40, so I started like in retail when I was just a young kid, and then I was a store manager at a video store for many years. But since video stores aren't really around anymore, like 6 or 7 years ago, I started to realize I need to check for another career because this video store ain't going to be here in a few years. And that's where I actually didn't find game development. I find more of a marketing, sales, like administrational education. But I always been into gaming, and like as Kevin, I also made small games like when I was a kid and younger, and it's always been a great passion of mine. I've been playing games since the mid 80s. Like I grew up with NES and Amiga and Spectra Video and all those old computers. So game development was always something I was interested in, but I never saw it as a career until when I by accident stumbled upon an internship, which was at indie developer here in Gothenburg called Adventure Forum, which is probably a lot of people have heard of. And I got an internship there, and that led to
Wait, Didn't you get an internship at Coffee Stain?
Yes, I had an internship at Coffee Stain as well, but
Oh.
that was before Image Inform, and Image Inform was the internship that led to me getting a job there, and that
Right.
led to Zoink, because Zoink was my previous employer as well as Kevin's.
Yeah.
And Image Inform and Zoink work closely together. So for me, it was just a matter of realizing that video stores aren't going to be around, and I wanted to have something cool, and I realized working with games could be a job.
Fair enough. I was actually going to ask about Zoink specifically as to what it was like transitioning from working at Zoink Games into essentially you guys running your own dev team.
Yeah, well, like both me and Kevin actually had Alwa's Awakening, the game we made before we got hired at Zoink. Well, we almost got the same thing. The two things started at the same time, kind of, for us back in 2014. So I was working with Alwa's Awakening as well as Kevin before we got hired in Zoink. So it was always something we had on the side as when we were working at Zoink Games. At Zoink Games, Kevin was a producer, and I was the marketing guy. And here at Elden Pixels with Alwa's Awakening, Kevin is the programmer, and I'm the level designer and story writer and designer. So it was like for almost 3 years we were doing one thing on Monday to Friday at work, like we're doing our normal jobs, and then we went home and we worked on Alvas on weekend and nights. We released the game in 2017, early 2017, more than a year ago, and that was supposed to be the end of the story actually, but I mean the game was popular and never really stopped being popular, and people seemed to like it and were asking for more games from us. So we kind of realized we have something good here, and we really enjoy working together. And early this year, we decided we want to try full time with Elden Pixels. So we started with this a month ago. So the actual transition was pretty smooth. We had our last day at Zoink on Wednesday, and then we got to this office, which we're in now, on Thursday, and started working. Yeah.
Nice. So, I guess more doubling back to when you started on Alwa's, but leading into that, what did you have experience-wise into like building Alwa's Awakening?
Right. In the beginning, we were very new. Like, I was a programmer, and I don't have what would you call it, a real education when it comes to programming. I studied level design, and that's how I got into Zoink. I was a level designer, but I always wanted to script and know how to help the programmers in all sorts of ways. So I made a bunch of prototypes and started learning for like 18 months. And then we, like when I got to Zoink as an intern, when we started making Alwa's Awakening, wait, what was the question again?
Basically, just sort of like what was the sort of, I guess, technical expertise or experience you'd had prior to working on Alwa's?
Oh yeah. So for my part, I've been working in Unity, or I had been working in Unity for a couple of years, and so I knew about it, and I could like make prototypes of games. That was like scripting and stuff like that. So that was basically my knowledge of it. But I've been like working in teams in school and stuff like that for like 5 years by that time. So I had the experience of working with other people and in projects.
Fair enough.
Yeah, for me, I had very little experience with actual game development. I had a lot of experience in working with people, in teams, product management, business, and all that stuff, which is important now when we have our own studio. But for game development, very little. Like, I did small games, very, very small, simple games when I was a kid, and I did level design for like old Duke Nukem games back in the 90s, stuff like that. But that was ages ago, and so I had very little knowledge, but I was very keen on learning as much as possible. So for almost like 2 years, and I still do, like I consumed everything I could find that had something that was not worth reading about level design, because that was my main job with Alva's Awakening. So I read like books and articles and watched videos, and I did that for 2 years. So, and it turned out all right, I think, at the end.
You really put in the work.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And then just the last little fun question, although I suppose this is more pertaining to Alwa's Awakening, was are there any characters in the game based off someone you know or one of you guys?
We have one of our closest developer friends is a Norwegian guy called Ole. He's super active on Twitter. Can't remember his Twitter name. It's Uri Barui. It's some weird.
Yeah.
And now he's a friend, and he helped us a lot with like we just asked him lots of questions, and he had input on the design. So he's a character in the game. You can go to him in the town in Alva's Awakening. You can ask him questions. Well, you can't really ask him questions, but he'll tell you stuff like, go there and you'll find that object, and if you can't find your way, go to that place and stuff like that. And then another friend, a Swedish guy who made a trailer, is also in the game. And there's one of my friends, a Latvian guy, which we just put in for fun, just to make fun of him. He's a book collector that lives in a cave.
Oh, I know him.
Yeah, that's my friend Davis. He's a really fun guy, and just for fun accident, when we asked BG, which is our pixel artist, to paint the guy. And for some reason, he chose the Latvian colors. So he has the Latvian colors on his sprite, which I think is just an accident. But that was the response I got when I showed Davis, like, this is your sprite. And it's like, those are the Latvian flag colors. But besides that, we have around 20 NPCs, I think, in Alva's Awakening. And I would say about 10 or 15 of them are named on people we know. But their sprites aren't based on them, but they are named, like people we know on Twitter or people we know in real life and stuff like that. But these names aren't really...
Like, we're never showing them.
No, we aren't showing the names in the game, which we could have done differently, but they have names, and they are named after people we know.
Fair enough. I imagine if we cracked open the code and looked at the name of the NPC, it would probably tell us the name.
Maybe, I'm not sure. Can't remember.
No, I don't think we ever put them in the game, but we got them on like documents and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And is there anything you guys want to share with the audience, or words you may have for aspiring developers? Just bits of, I guess, experience,
like
knowledge, tips. Yeah, things you've acquired over the years and or recently.
One thing that I always tell people is that just make stuff. Don't make stuff and let people play your stuff, and just iterate on that. So, and make small stuff and finish it. Like my Alva's Awakening is my first big game that I finished, like aside from Zoink, the games that we made there, but on a personal project, stuff like that, that's the biggest game. Now it is a big game, but all of the other games are just small, like you can finish it in 10 minutes and stuff like that. I've got like 50 prototypes that are just 10 minutes long, because I wanted to make something that is playable and finished. So make something small and just keep grinding, make more, and make games with other people. That's also very, very good to learn how you work in teams, if you want to do that.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I agree with Kevin, and I also say, like, you see a lot of people out there on Twitter making games and stuff like that, and I think it's important to, like, ask yourself what you want to achieve with this. I mean, if you just want to make games for fun, just make games for fun. You don't You don't have to have any restraints on that. You can make small games, bigger games. But if you want to make games like for a living, make sure you actually, as Kevin said, finish them and make sure people can play them and you maintain them and you keep talking about it. But I think it's important to realize what you want from this. I mean, if you just want to be just a guy or a girl who makes games and doesn't care about it, be that person. But if you want to make a living, be that person. And then you have to think about the whole game development thing as a whole different kind of thing. Because now now when we're running our own studio, we have different challenges that we didn't have when we made Alice Awakening, which is so realize what you want to do and focus on that thing.
Also be critical of your work. Like, look at it. Like, is it good? Could it be better? What could be better? And yeah.
Yeah, one last thing I like to add as well. Always surround yourself with people that are better than you.
Yeah.
It's scary as hell because then you'll always be the idiot in the room. But if you are that idiot and you'll surround yourself with people that are better than you, you'll learn from them. And then you'll keep on learning and keep on progressing.
Sure.
And in the end, people want to be with you instead because they'll be the idiots and you'll be the guy or person who knows everything. So surround yourself with talented people.
So, first off, some really good advice there. Second off, now, I'm going to start diving into a bit more of the questions related to Alwa's itself. And in that regards, how exactly did the game come to be? And what was the inspirations for making the game?
The main inspiration of the game was an NES game called Battle Kid. And the birth of Alwa, if you could say that, was back in 2014 when me and a couple of friends had a night where we actually finished Trine, if you know the Trine games.
Yes,
games.
I've played the first and I've played the second but haven't finished it. I have the second and third.
Yeah, brilliant games, at least the two first. And we finished Trine 2 in one sitting actually, which took close to 10 hours. And I think we finished in the middle of the night, like 3 or 4 a.m. And we also played this NES game called Battle Kid, which is like a Mega Man-esque kind of game, which you progress screen by screen, and it's super, super, super difficult, and it's insanely difficult. And yeah, after that night, I was like, it sounds ridiculous now, but I was like, yeah, I want to make a game. So I started writing a design document, which just didn't take long at all. Like in a couple of days, I think I had like close to 20 pages. And then I kind of realized since I was talking about this earlier, that you surround yourself with good people. Since I didn't know how to program the game good enough or make pixel art good enough, I sent the document to BG, which is our pixel artist. And he made a sprite mock-up of the game, which we actually posted on Twitter the other day. And with that screenshot, if I'm remembering it correctly now, Kevin, I think I showed it to you. And
I think you had an audio file as well.
Oh yeah. I had a friend who's making all the music, who made all the music for I Was Awakening, Robert Krese. He made a track as well. So I think I had a track, the design document, and the pixel artist, and I found Kevin. And yeah, that was the start of it. And here we are 4 years later.
Fair enough. Battle Kid's not actually an NES game. It was like an NES like game someone made, right? Or am I thinking of something else?
Sorry, can you say that again?
A Battle Kid, was that like the game that someone made to be like an NES game, or was it an actual NES game?
It was an actual NES game, so it was only released on NES cartridges, so it's not that big of a title since it had a limited release. I think I read somewhere it sold just a few thousand copies worldwide. But it's a brilliant game. If you can find a copy of it, you should really play it. There is an easy mode which actually made it bearable.
Oh right, yeah, that's why I'm thinking about it. Is because it was released in 2010.
Yes.
Right.
There are two of them. Battle Kid 2, I think, came out in 2012 or something like that. They are brilliant games. You should try them.
Yeah, I was like, is it actually on it? Because I know there's a lot of games that push for like that NES aesthetic.
Yeah.
And then I remembered it was a recent game, so it didn't quite click to me. But yeah, people are still actually making games for the NES, which is sort of interesting to work with those limitations. Incidentally, what was it that actually inspired the artistic direction for Alwa's? Because it's
Well, um, that's more of a question for our pixel artist, because at Elden Pixels we always try to give, like, Kevin does all the code and I try not to look at the code, and I did all the level design, and Pixel BG made all the pixel art. So I want a castle and I want it to look cool, and then he sent something to us and I'm like, this is cool, and we worked from then. But like inspiration on when it comes to games, I'd say is also inspired much by the Zelda games, like particularly Zelda 2, like the old NES one, and the Castlevania games. So I always wanted a kind of fantasy dungeon castles medieval setting kind of. So we looked at a lot of inspiration on old medieval castles, towns, settings, and stuff like that. But yeah.
So, what engine did you use to make the game?
We used Unity because that's what we knew. But actually, before I got into the project, I think Mikael and maybe someone else used GameMaker, if I'm not wrong. Is that correct?
Yeah, for the first earliest mock-up where we just had one room, but we actually coded it for the NES back in 2014 as well. So we tried to get the game up and running on a NES with assembly, which is like this ancient programming language, and it was challenging,
like
but
machine
we got
code.
the game. Yeah, and but it was too challenging for us, and so we decided to move on to Unity because that's a good engine for 2D games and 3D games as well, of course.
So
that was before I joined the project. So when I joined, I pushed for Unity, and it wasn't difficult to get you on board. But yeah, so Unity. The game is made in Unity.
Okay. I was actually just gonna double back on this though. So you said you guys had sort of bounced the idea of actually putting this in machine code and releasing it on NES. So did that actually play a factor in the graphical style for the game?
Yes, very much so. For the longest time, we still made all the art so it would work on the NES, because we kind of hoped almost until the end that we would somehow port it or release it on the NES, but we kind of realized we weren't be able to do that. But all the assets are using the same color limitations as the NES. We are cheating a little, but very, very little. And all the music works on NES as well. And what we did, instead of releasing the game on NES, we actually made a soundtrack. So there is a limited collection. Well, it's not limited, but it's sold out at the moment. But there is a collector's edition of Alwa's Awakening. And if you buy that, you'll get the manual of the game, and you'll actually get the NES cartridge. And that cartridge has the soundtrack, and you can put it in a NES cartridge, and you can change tracks, and you can pause, so you can restart the track. And that graphics looks identical to the release version we have on Steam.
Okay,
But it's not the
pretty
actual
spiffy.
game, it's just the soundtrack.
So, what was the hardest challenge when making the game?
I would say that it was all very new to us. Like, I've made games before, as I said, but never as a sort of tech lead kind of guy, and managing or being a part of this type of project before. Before, when I made games, it was in school, and we had a deadline and these short deadlines and stuff like that. But here it was on our spare time, and I didn't know everything. So that was a challenge to learn a bunch of the basics of what goes into a game, I had to learn a bunch of those stuffs, and that was a challenge, I think, for everyone because no one had really made like a big game like that before, and so yeah, that was I think a bit of a challenge, like the learning phase. So we had to take our time at some parts to make sure that we got it right.
I'd say two things. First of all, actually released in the game, because it's you can work on the game forever and polish and stuff
For
like
sure.
that. But actually coming to a place where you decide, okay, this is done now. We can't work anymore on that. That was challenging and scary. Actually, releasing the game. I still remember the day when we pushed that. Is it deploy or release button or release
Like green
game?
button.
Yeah, that huge green button that Steam has when you release a game and making sure it's out there. It was super scary. It was super fun, but it's also super scary. But for me, I think the hardest challenge when I look back for the last 2 or 3 years was it's kind of like you have so many ideas. Like, and for me, this was my first real game that I made, and I had ideas like gazillion each day. So I wrote them down on a piece of paper. I wrote them down on my cell phone. I recorded my voice if I couldn't write down. And like I had so many ideas. And at the end, it was almost exhausting, almost having like every time I looked at a movie or played a game, like I always, oh, we could do this. Oh, this would be cool. Oh, we should do this. So we could have that item or that character. And at the end, I almost stop playing video games because I always had so many ideas when I play them. So for me, when we actually released the game and okay, the game is out there and we can put that more content into it, that felt good. So being exhausted from all those ideas were the most challenging part for me, I think.
Inversely, what went really well for you guys when developing Alwas?
I would say the friendship between us as a team and how it grew as the time went on. That is what I'm very happy about the game, how it turned out, but I'm very happy that we as a team always worked together and like it went well.
Yeah, I agree with Kevin.
That's like
But other than that, like
heartwarming moment.
yeah, but like people liked it. That was also very well for us. Like when we first showed the game, like we've been working on it for 6 months, and then we announced it, and then we had a demo here in Gothenburg in Sweden, and we saw it was very scary because that was when people, like we've seen comments online, like people seem to enjoy it, but when people started playing it in front of our eyes for the first time, that was a special day to like see 40-year-old men falling in love again. Like it was crazy to see that, or people in general just falling in love with the game. That was very motivating and crazy to be a part of. So yeah.
So, is
Yeah.
there anything that didn't make it into the game that you guys really wanted? Like, either lore or gameplay wise?
That's a good question. I can't say that we left that much out. I'd say we were thinking about adding a new game plus, like for the
Yeah.
longest of time, like because all these Metroidvania games, they always have the new game plus where everything's more challenging or upside down or wherever, and we just discussed it for the longest of time. But then we saw Yacht Club Games, who made Shovel Knight. They posted some pic of the statistics for Shovel Knight, their super successful game, and I think if I remember correctly, they said that only 1% finished New Game Plus on Shovel Knight. And so we was like, okay, if Shovel Knight was a massive success and they have like millions of players, if only 1% of people actually care enough to play a New Game Plus on that game, which is an absolutely brilliant game, if you ask me, if we, since our game was a much smaller game, like we would spend so much time working on New Game Plus, and it would only be like mom and dad who'd play it and ourselves. So
Yeah.
we gave up on that idea. I still would love a New Game Plus, but I think but it didn't come any further than we actually had the idea. We never worked on it.
Yeah.
But besides that, I don't think we left anything out the game.
No, not really. Like we could have made. I'm not.
Sorry if I interrupted you. We had a boss, the mini boss.
Yeah, we had a mini boss that
Yes.
we decided like 2 months before release that we're probably not gonna put this one in.
But the fun part is,
Do you mean when people like data mine the game?
yeah, because since Alwa's Awakening is a Unity game, there are tools out there that you can just download a Unity game off Steam, and then you can run it through this tool, and then you'll get all the assets and script. Or I'm not sure exactly.
Like we don't want you to do this that Michael is explaining
Go ahead
right
and
now.
do it. People already
But
done
it's a thing that you can do.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
people do this all the time. So there are like animations and sprites for a whole boss who's like some kind of lizard thing.
Lizard guy with armor and sword.
Yeah, and it
He's got
looks
a sword.
really cool.
Yeah.
Like it would probably be a really cool boss. BG or pixel art spent forever on it, but at the end we just scrapped it because we didn't have that time. Yeah.
So, actually focusing a bit more on that gameplay-oriented aspect, Alwa as a game is extremely speedrunner friendly and almost porous in the way that you can sort of move between a number of the screens, with players able to bypass sections of the games by mastering certain tricks and techniques. Was that always at the core of the game's design?
Yes, I'd say so. Like Kevin mentioned earlier when we showed the game back in 2015, Sweden has a good speedrunning scene. There are a lot of talented speedrunners here in Sweden, and two of them we met for the first time, I think, back in 2015. They're Infested Rich and Dexter, which are both very talented and ES speedrunners. And they immediately just loved the game, especially Rich. He was like, this is awesome. This was way early demo, like super.
But this was the first time we showed the game.
Yeah.
Because they were at this event gonna speedrun something else, and then they played Alba and started breaking it in front of our eyes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, and we can realize that this is something we should like focus on because it's fun to. I love watching people speedrun, and I never speedrun a game myself, but I love watching them. I always follow Awesome Games Done Quick and Summer Games Done Quick. So we had help with Rich and Dexter throughout. Then we just sent them the game, and they just completely broke it every time because they have their ways of finding exploits in the game. And we did find a number of skips throughout the development. We found a couple of skips. There are like you can make this bubble and you can make this block in the game which you can jump on. And if you time your jump well enough, you can put a block in midair and then jump off it, which almost essentially is a double jump. And you can do the same with the bubble. And when we realized we had this in the game, instead of trying to fix that bug, we just made it a little bit harder to make, so it's harder to find for a casual player. But then we just almost redesigned a lot of the dungeons and rooms in the game. So if you use that technique, you can just access almost any area right off the bat. Like when you start the game, you can just skip everything and go your entire way. And that was the thing that led to the speedrunner really embracing the game, because you could find your own way and you could find skips, and there are like wall jumps you can do which are super hard.
I can't even do those.
Could consistently do a wall jump. Like, I managed to pull that off once in the final dungeon the one time after falling through the floor. I was like, F this. No, I'm just gonna try and wall jump my way back up the thing that I just dropped through.
Yeah, the wall jump actually worked. It was easier to do in the beginning, and then we tried to fix it.
Yeah, in the beginning you could do it in the front. You could look in the wall and do it. But then I fixed that, and I was very proud of it. And then, like one of these times when we sent the build to either Dexter or Infested Rich, and they were like sending us videos on how like, I've destroyed your game. and they found a way to do it like from the back.
Backwards. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, shit. But they like I can't do that jump.
I mean,
So
either. I can do it once, but I can't do it several times in a row, which you need to do in order to get those real skips.
and not
in there.
on the first try.
I can do it quite consistently, like on one tile, but I can't do it on several tiles. But I can do all the other skips. There's a there's a spike skip as well, which we just left in the game. You can actually jump on spikes and not get hurt if you jump on the exact frame you land on. And we
Like
just left
precision
all those,
spike hopping.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we just left all those stuff in the game. We knew about all the skips that the speedrunners found, except one thing.
Yeah, like if there are 6 skips in the game, we knew about 5.
Yeah, but there is one which I can't understand how we found it, but you can actually skip through the ground in a place in a dungeon, which is very useful. But it's too hard to explain. But it's
You place a bubble, and then on the end of a pixel you place the block,
yeah.
and then you get pushed through the ground. It's weird.
They
I
like
was,
trap themselves and get themselves like pushed through.
Yeah, so the
Yeah,
collision
exactly.
just pushed them through.
But
That's
yeah, we
amazing.
really love the speedrun community, and we're really thankful for all the help we got, and that people seem to really like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we are like working on some not major updates, but small fixes like small polishes and stuff like that. And each time we release something, I'm just hoping we will break something that will revive the speedruns now, because we had a lot of speedruns like the first couple of months, but now Rich has an almost impossible time to beat, so no one's really running the game at the moment, which is sad. So I'm hoping we can just accidentally implement a bug that breaks everything so people will start running it again.
So does that mean you guys do have a favorite memory of watching someone play your game then?
Yeah, my best memory is like the day we released. Like I think a day before we released it, we let streamers like stream the game. But I remember, I think it was release day, and we unfortunately we weren't sitting at in the same room. We were at home, but we talked through text and stuff like that, and we watched kind of like the same streams. And I remember like there was a streamer who finished the game, and he didn't know that we were in the chat, and he was thanking us, and he had such a good time. And then I almost teared up, and then I jumped into another stream, and he was like 10 minutes away from the credits, and so I was almost tearing up. And then when we watched the second guy finish it, he was the same. He didn't know that we were there, and he had such a good time. He was thanking us again, stuff like that, and I just cried. It was incredible to see someone play your game and like thanking you. It was worth it. It was incredible. I think that's the best memory I have of it. But there's also this streamer guy who wears a beaver suit, and
What?
sometimes he just dance.
A what suit?
Like a
No, you mean a squirrel.
squirrel. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and he just
I
dance
can't
around.
remember his name. It's El Dirty Squirrel or something. He's quite huge on Twitch. He's a real fun guy. I've met him once actually. No, I think I might have met him once. I'm not sure. He was a really cool guy, and yeah, he streams on Twitch, and he wears a squirrel hat and squirrel tail, and he streamed the game for a couple of nights, and all of a sudden just powers the games and gets up dancing.
breaks into a weird dance. It's weird, but
Sounds
it
weird
was
when we talk
cool.
about it, but it was really funny. I remember like one of the coolest memories I have is when Rich played the game on Awesome Games Done Quick Quizwatch, which was a year ago now, so it wasn't this winter. It was Summer Games Done Quick, I think 2017, because that was always something we wanted.
Yeah, remember you said that was one of the like dream goals, that
Yeah.
having the game on Awesome Games Done Quick.
Yeah, unfortunately they played it on the graveyard shift. So the audience was like, there was like 2 people
Dead.
sitting there, and one guy was sleeping almost. But that's really really cool. And yeah, we were in the chat, and we donated the money, and we were really excited to see someone play the game live there.
So,
I was about to say that because that's huge. Like, there are a lot of games out there, and for a big event like that to bring us in, you gotta be. I mean, you gotta be happy that people care about what you do. So, that was, of course, we were there in the graveyard shift and watching. Like, we had to be there.
Tried my best to not read the comments on Twitch chat. No, people were actually nice, but it was the Twitch chat, so it was a lot of people complaining about stuff. It was like, what is this shit game? I never heard of this.
But I think that's a good part because you and me, we don't, like, we read negative stuff, but we
Yeah.
don't take it that personally.
Yeah.
So, like, we laugh at stuff. Like, the first refund, refund comments of the game on Steam is, it's shit. And we laugh about that kind of stuff. So, we're not that terrified of negative comments.
Yeah.
Feedback, comments, criticism. But we joke. That's how we process things. We joke about it.
Yeah, I think that's a strength actually. I mean, it's on a minor scale now because we don't. I mean, we're not the Fallout developers, so we're not getting that much negative. So it's easy to laugh just when it's a few comments every now and then. But I'm hoping we'll still be this way when we made more games and we'll have more negative comments. But every time we get a negative comment, I mean, it's one part of me is like, okay, it's sad that people don't enjoy the game, but when people just express themselves very comedic, it's always fun to laugh. Like we had a Steam review just 2 or 3 weeks ago, because one of the main complaints we get about Alwa's Awakening, people really like it, but a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but a few people comment about how floaty the physics are. Like when you jump, it feels like you're like floating more than you're not falling. You don't have that much of a weight when it comes to gravity, and also it's a bit slow. But we wanted it this way. That's the way we wanted the game to be. We didn't want the game to be a fast Mega Man-esque shooter. We wanted the game to be a more slow adventure game. But 3 weeks ago, someone reviewed the game, and he, of course, said it was a bad game, and he called it, I think he said, what is this game? A turtle on Mars?
Yeah.
Which we just thought was hilarious. So we just immediately thought we should make a game called Turtle on Mars. Just
Yeah, like,
poke fun at the guy.
One day we're gonna sell merch with the negative comments, like it's shit
Yes.
and
Yeah.
a turtle on Mars.
Yeah.
So,
We should print business cards, like our names on one side, and on the
Yeah.
other side it's a negative review.
a random negative comment, like that's how we embrace this kind of stuff.
I think that's a good thing that you can laugh about it, because
Yeah.
people's always gonna complain about stuff you do.
So, another thing here is, how hard was it to sort of build areas so people wouldn't get stuck or also just too frustrated? Because there's a lot of things in there that are very retro in their difficulty. I'm looking at you, instant death spikes and then like fake death traps and yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean that was challenging, but like if I had the world map on a paper, I could quite easily draw like these circles away, like in a way how the dungeons are designed. Although you could branch out and go your own way, and you can skip here and there. There are like you are actually pushed forward in a direction all the way. So, and since we had that way of designing the levels, there weren't that many places where you could get stuck. We had a little problems with keys and when people started doing the skips, because then people ended up in areas they weren't supposed to. But we just constantly iterated on all the rooms. Like every week the rooms just get better and better and better and better, and the chances of soft locking, getting stuck somewhere where you couldn't escape, was slim to none. And when we released the game, like a few weeks later, we actually realized you could end up. No one did that we know of, but you could end up in a position where you couldn't 100% the game if you did certain things in a certain order. We just fixed that, and to our knowledge, you can't break the game now, or you can't get stuck anywhere. I
Well,
don't think.
you shouldn't be able to break the game.
No, you
No,
shouldn't.
but we played the game a lot. That's what we did, and tried to experiment, like going different routes and breaking it. So we played it a lot. That's what we did. Not saying that not everyone else is playing their game during development, but we played our game a lot.
Yeah.
I'll admit I totally did get stuck for a bit, and I think it's the area where you like jump down through the fake spike pit that,
Oh yeah.
and then there's to get out of there. There's like a hidden section, and I got stuck there for the longest time because I didn't find it.
Wait, do you mean by the waterfall?
I think so. It's like do you have to actually? There's like a little thing that's not actually there, but looks like it is. So you think you're actually stuck in that area, but you can just like jump up onto like this fake wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on the top right of Stone Cellar. Like
Yeah.
if you fall
Oh,
down. Yeah.
that one.
Yeah, if I could change something, we actually fixed that room in an update, so it's still a secret wall there, but it's easier to find now. And since we did that update, people haven't mentioned that.
Yeah,
so
there's a pattern in the wall
floor.
now.
Yeah. So it's much easier to escape from that room because we noticed a lot of people were getting stuck there. But if I could change anything in the design of Alwa's Awakening, I'd remove all fake walls that you need to go through, because the whole game is littered with fake walls, and that's fun, but I'd remove them from the main path and just have them instead being something collectible or an alternative route or something like that.
The fake
Because a
wall
lot of
leading to the
people-
coin, by the way, was one of the last things I got.
the fake wall with the coin.
Yeah, and the Cecil.
Yeah, one of the
Ah, okay.
last things I got, because I just never. It took so long for me to figure it, because I kept walking by like that room and being like, there has to be a way to get there. Well, and so then I'm like traveling around the dungeon trying to find like a path that leads directly there, and it never clicked like, hey, fake wall, until like way later in the game with like, oh, hey, fake walls.
Yeah, too many fake walls in that game.
You've already. I'm going to start touching on things in regards to, I suppose, future projects now, and you already sort of touched on this slightly. Are there any more planned content updates to Alwa's Awakening? Like, you guys seem fairly on the ball for updating the game and fixing bugs and just continuing to improve on it. But is there any content that might still be coming? And is there any upcoming localizations?
Okay, so right now, like a couple of months ago, like when we worked at Soink, we didn't have time to work on Alba due to reasons. So now that we're like doing this full time, we had a few ideas that we want to like fix. So that's why we've been working on updates and stuff like that, because new people find the game like every week. So we thought, why not fix some of the things that people might find annoying, or if they want to play a certain way. So that's why we're working on updates now with the new patch that's coming soon sometime. It's in testing right now with the assist mode. So
Like
and
Celeste's
when it-
assist mode?
yeah, we're inspired by the Celeste mode.
You mean stole it from Celeste?
So
Oh, sorry. I meant inspired. by Celeste.
we're very inspired by it. So yeah, like you can respawn in the same room as you died, and you can show all the items on the map and also all the wells, so you can refill your flask. And though, like not saying that Celeste did it in a bad way, but we're not marking, like putting a stamp on your save profile and stuff like that. If you use assist mode, it's just totally optional, because like new people find the game all the time, so we want to make sure that they have the option to adjust the game if they want to, if that makes them play the game more. Because we have to, like, people, it might only be me, don't play, like, you have to fight for everyone's attention. So if putting in an assist mode makes someone play the game a little bit longer, then sure, go ahead, use it. And when it comes to localization, we're like right now, or the last patch we put in like French, Italian, and Russian, and we're looking into some other languages.
Klingon?
What?
Klingon?
Klingon? Yeah, no, but we're looking into other languages as well. But that's it. Like, that's the idea.
Okay. Still Alwa's Awakening related, but so Alwa's Awakening ends on what some might argue could be a sequel hook, showcasing a situation that not only mirrors the beginning of like the vanilla game, but also showcases a pretty dramatic visual upgrade, as though transitioning from the NES to the SNES. Is that a hint that a sequel or DLC is on the way, and would such a sequel or DLC further clarify the story / lore of the game as a whole and the protagonist story?
That's an interesting question. Very, very interesting. How should I phrase this? No, I mean, I'd say we thought about DLC once, and we might do DLC someday.
Like, we thought about DLC twice.
Yes.
But
and we actually started a little with it. But
yeah, due to reasons we have to tread lightly here.
yeah, but yeah, it is an open-ended game, but I mean, Alwa's Awakening was inspired by all those NES games which I mentioned earlier, and all. I mean, those, they didn't have that much of a story, but I mean, when you start the first Super Mario Bros., it's not like you have a reason to kill all the enemies or destroy innocent Goombas, but you just do it. So that's kind of the setting we had in our game as well. You just set up, there's a bad guy, kill him, and return everything to order. But in the game, there is actually more lore than most people find. Like,
and there's the website.
Oh yeah, we
website.
had that.
That one.
Oh yeah, that was. You knew about that?
Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, that's the hidden website, and there is a lot of like meaning behind why you do stuff in Alwa's Awakening, and so the whole ending is not just. It's not just a graphical change. It has to do something with the whole story about. I don't want to spoil too much because it's up for interpretation.
Yeah, but I would say it's more. It's more okay. It's more of a story kind of stuff rather than a possible hint about future stuff. So it's more of a story thing.
Yeah, we just thought it would be fun because we wanted the ending, like most games end positive, and this ends more open-minded. Like you could either, like, spoiler, but she falls down and the game ends, and you can be like, okay, did she die? Did the game start over, or did she start at the beginning? It's like we wanted something that people would come up to us and talk about. This is actually very much inspired. When I say inspired, I mean stolen. No, but I listened to a talk by Ron Gilbert, who made like Maniac mentioned, and he worked on Monkey Island games, and there's the ending to Monkey Island 2. I don't know if you know the ending to Monkey Island 2.
I don't actually.
No, it's but you know the Monkey Island games. Like
I'm aware of them, yeah. And isn't he also the dude that did like Thimbleweed Park?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and he did a talk, and if anyone's listening now who doesn't want the secret of Monkey Island 2 to be spoiled, and now it's time to shut off. But in the end of Monkey Island 2, you kind of realize that everything was like almost a dream, and a lot of people hated this ending. Like a lot of people hated the ending. And I remember playing it as a kid, and thought it was a weird ending. And then 10 years ago, I think it was, I played the Monkey Island game with my wife, and she hated the ending as well. And I was like, yeah, it's a cool ending. And then I heard this talk about Ron Gilbert, and he said that if he'd made an ending with Monkey Island 2 that just ended with everyone living happily ever after, no one would ever talk to him about it. And now, 25 years later, people are still coming up to him, like at all convention, everywhere he goes. He was like, everyone comes up to him talking about the ending to Secret of Monkey Island 2. So that's kind of the thing I wanted, because here we are talking about the ending to Alwa's Awakening, and people are always asking us about it. We have, this is funny, like we have a guy who cuts our hair. Well, we don't have a guy, but we go to a barber shop and there's the guy who cuts our hair. For some reason, we know the same guy. And this guy loves Alwa's Awakening. And every time I go there, he asks me about the ending to our game. And it was like, I'll never tell you.
Wow.
You have to. Yeah, and it's become a thing. So it's always fun to talk about the ending. So that's what we wanted. And I think since we are here talking about it, we kind of succeeded with it.
Yeah, the thing is, like, as we said, like when we made the game, the goal was to just make Alwa's Awakening. So as I referring to myself, as I said before, like it's a story thing, because we only plan to make one game.
Yeah, exactly. We did. It's like when we designed the game, we didn't actually think we were sitting here 4 years later talking about why we exactly designed it that way.
And not that we would be like indies like this.
No, but it's a good thing. So, yeah, it's an open-ended ending, and we'll see what happens in the future.
All right. Which I suppose leads to near our end here is, are there any projects or intellectual properties that are currently in the works in Elden Pixar's future? And would you care to talk about it at all?
Well, I can start off by saying that, yeah, we're doing new stuff. We're experimenting and trying things, but nothing that we can talk about at the moment, because it's basically nothing right now. We've been focusing on Alwa's Awakening and exploring what else we could do with other stuff. So, but we're going to make another game for sure. But we don't know what it is yet.
Fair enough.
If that makes sense.
Oh no, it totally makes sense. There's stuff you're exploring, trying to figure out what you're actually going to like, dedicate your time to actually running with, but in the moment, people can expect more updates and nudges to Alwa's. Sound right?
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any indie projects you guys are following?
That's a good question.
Wunderling by Retroid.
Yeah.
The guys that we're sharing office with. It's a cute little game.
What is the game?
Wunderling, like W-U, and then I can't spell anymore.
It's Wunderling. It's like it's a platform game. It's really, really cool, and it's made by our friends here at Retroid. I'd say like I was following Thimbleweed Park for the longest time, but now that's out and I got it. I'm not like, yeah, it's out there. But other indie projects. That's a good question.
No,
That's a cute little critter.
Yeah, it's a cute little guy you play as. I mean, we worked for almost 2 years on Flipping Death by Zoink Games. Now it feels like we're doing shoutouts. We aren't, but I'm actually super excited to play the final version of Flipping Death because I haven't played it for 4 months, and it's by far my favorite game that Zoink ever made.
Yeah,
and I'm so excited to see what we'll be able to polish it into and hopefully release it pretty soon, which I don't know when because we don't work there anymore. But I'd love, because my wife haven't seen anything from it, and I know she'll love it, and I can't wait to play that game with
I haven't seen anything of it either. I just know it's a thing.
It's an awesome thing, I'd say.
Yeah, I'm also very excited about it, even though I worked on it for 2 years. So yeah.
Yeah,
Alright. Well, in that case, I suppose we can wrap things up here. So first off, to the folks watching, you can buy Alwa's Awakening on Steam. There'll be a link in the description. For news, you can follow these fine folks on Twitter at Elden Pixels, at Anderson Kev, and at Mikael Forsland, which, again,
Yes.
totally going to be in the description. There's also their spiffy website, which is alwasawakening.com. And also, once again, taking it from the top, links in the description. Is there anywhere else you'd care to send people to?
What?
Like, is there any other website information the likes you'd care to send people to?
Yeah, we are actually launching our real site hopefully in next month or within 2 months. It's going to be eldenpixels.com. So Alwa's Awakening is still going to be up there for a few more months, but eldenpixels.com is going to be the website we go by. But besides that, you pretty much got it covered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. If
We
the
usually
website launches-
update on Twitter, so hit us up there.
There we go. So Twitter's the main point of information then. If Elden Pixels launches before this video goes up, we will also have a link to it in the description. Or I'll
Yeah,
like
and
retroactively put it in there and be like, it was always there, guys. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could also lastly add that we've just recently started twitching, like streaming on Twitch.
Yeah.
And when I say we, I mean Kevin.
Yeah, we're trying to find like a schedule, like how often we're gonna stream and what we're gonna do on Twitch. Like if we're gonna do like weekly or monthly updates when we talk about stuff we do. But we're trying to stand up. No, we're trying to figure out what we're gonna do. But we wanna get into more Twitch.
And it's the same account name. It's Elden Pixels.
Yeah.
Just gonna
And
jot
yeah.
that down and stick that also in the comments.
thank
Okay.
you so much.
For those who are watching, as a note, I also first off to you guys, I highly appreciate you guys popping on the show today, providing us your time, and just also the clarification to the game itself. It's appreciated.
Thanks for having
Yeah,
us.
thanks for having us.
It was a complete pleasure. To the viewers, thanks to you folks for tuning in. It's always just a blast to be making content for folks. In the meantime, if you enjoyed that, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. You can click the little bell button to get notifications for future things. And remember, sharing is caring, because that's how small little indie channels grow. Other than that, if you'd care to actually touch base with us at the Crit Hit team, you can totally poke the Discord button on the YouTube or in the Discord, and you can also follow us on Twitch, which is at twitch.com/Arlyeon. Anyways, we'll catch you on the next episode of Crit Hit Interviews. Is that fine with you guys? Was there anything I missed, left out? I think I covered everything.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Okay.
everything sounded awesome. Thank
Note
you
to
so
the
much
editor.
for having us.
Don't leave the part where I'm like sounding all questiony after. We had a really good closeout. It was good. Just yeah.